There's nothing quite like the thrill of mixed martial arts. When it's at its best, it's a rush that's hard to top in any other medium. But for all the wonderful moments MMA has brought us over the years, there are plenty of instances that just made us feel really bad, man. And if not bad, incredibly uncomfortable. I'm talking about the types of moments you just wish you never saw. You wish you could escape from, but they're seared into your mind. So today we're going to be looking at the 10 times MMA most made us want to pretend what we just saw never happened. I'm Tommy from MMA On Point, and these are the 10 most uncomfortable moments in MMA history. Number 10. Brandon Royval's breakdown. We kick off our list with a cold reality of the sport we love so much, and that's that the fighters we're watching destroy each other for our entertainment on Saturday are sometimes pulling a double shift on Monday because being a full-time fighter isn't in the cards for most combatants, even those who have made it into the big time. Brandon Royval took on former title contender Tim Elliott on the prelims of the first Apex card during the pandemic and scored an upset win in the second round with an arm triangle. In his post-fight interview, Royval gave everyone a hard cold splash of reality right in the face when he began to cry because he believed his performance was not worthy of a $50K bonus, and thus he would need to go back to work that next day. The sudden downward shift from a fighter who should have been ecstatic about a big win against a name opponent instead served as a sober and uncomfortable reminder of what many fighters go through to chase their dream. This story has a happy ending though. While he didn't win a performance bonus, he did get Fight of the Night. Royval put in his 2 weeks and is now training full-time. Number 9. KRZYSZTOF's oil check. We now move into the awkward phase of our list. Don't worry, it's really only 3 entries, but we're starting things off with Krzysztof Soszyński performing what is known as an oil check in grappling circles and assault anywhere else in the world. Soszyński took on Goran Relicic at UFC 122, and early in the fight, after a failed takedown attempt by Goran that saw the 2 competitors up against the cage wall while angling for a better position, Krzysztof, well, he dug his fingers right into his opponent's cheeks, and for the sake of you and the monetization of this channel, I'll just leave it at that. The act elicited groans from the crowd as well as commentator Joe Rogan calling out the technique, prompting Soszyński to immediately stop. Interestingly, that bit of commentary has been erased from the history books, at least on Fight Pass. Wow, the UFC is thorough, are they not? Ultimately, nothing came of the oil check, although I have to believe that is in some way violating the unified rules of mixed martial arts, even if they're no longer unified. Whatever the case, it's about as uncomfortable as one can get in a grappling exchange, and I certainly hope Soszyński washed his hands after the fight. Number 8. Creepy interview with Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey really took the sport by storm in 2012. There's a reason she became the first female fighter in the UFC the next year. There was just something about her that captured the fans. She had the it factor, in addition to absolutely decimating every opponent in her path. And it was during this honeymoon phase with the hardcore fans, we were treated to a cringe-inducing interview moment done by FrontRowFights.com a few months after she defeated Miesha Tate to become Strikeforce champion. Now, this was an outtake obtained by Middle Easy. The actual interview does not contain this moment and is pretty solid, but oh man, is this uncomfortable. To set things up, Rousey is hanging out with Cesar Gracie in Stockton, and the first few minutes of this outtake are nothing too unusual, but then the interviewer starts to talk about when he had the opportunity to roll with Rousey, and that's when things take a weird turn. So weird, in fact, that Cesar Gracie does what any good friend would do: he bails on the interview.
Your presence is amazing. The attention you pay to the moment, like, makes my life like so much more fun right now.
Oh, nice. This is getting really creepy for me, you two. I'm gonna step over here.
In reality, Gracie's bringing to the attention of everyone involved how intense everything was becoming, probably saved for a lot more uncomfortable words being exchanged by all parties, so good on him. Number 7. Jens Pulver gets dissed on Tough. The Ultimate Fighter is an uncomfortable moment machine. It feeds off the awkward and weird. It's a reality television show after all. And while there's been plenty of uncomfortable and hilarious moments, let me bang bro, the most genuinely uncomfortable comes from Season 5 with Team Pulver and Team Penn. At the time of the show, BJ was wrapped up in the welterweight title picture and a fan favorite. Pulver was seen as old news and had just lost to Joe Lozon, one of the contestants on the show that season prior to filming. With that in mind, when it came time to pick teams, the coaches were meant to go one after another until all 16 fighters had been selected, with Penn going first. Instead, though, Penn decided to take an unofficial survey asking who among them wanted nothing to do with Team Pulver. The answer was basically everyone, or rather an uncomfortable amount of fighters. 10 of the 16 hopefuls raised their hands, indicating they in fact wanted nothing to do with Jens Pulver. At this point, the two coaches decided this was the best way to divvy up the teams, to which a frustrated Dana White put a halt to everything and forced them to make their picks the way the show was structured. Even still, though, all those hands, that had to sting. Number 6. Joe Rogan interrogates Mario Yamasaki. Joseph James Rogan has never been afraid to ask tough questions in a post-fight interview. If something odd happened or there was some kind of controversy, he's more than happy to confront it right there with the fighter, and while this has led to plenty of not-so-fun moments, by far the most uncomfortable has to be his interview with Mario Yamasaki after the Eric Silva-Carlo Prater fight at UFC 142. Yes, that's right, you know when the referee is getting interviewed post-fight, somebody fucked up. And indeed Mario, who as we all now know has had more than a few issues reffing in the UFC, at the time was pretty stellar as the third man in the cage. But on this night, after stopping a beautiful 29-second barrage by Silva to earn an easy victory, he decided the blows were to the back of the head, and thus Silva was disqualified. Upon replay, it was clear they were not, and so Joe decided to have a little post-fight chat where they watched the replay together, and he asked Yamasaki what he saw. Of course, Mario didn't have much in the way of an explanation, but I'm sure the humiliation served his next few bouts well. The fight remains a DQ loss for Silva despite an appeal. Number 5. Chris Weidman's dad supports his son. The love of a father for their son. It's not about looking cool, it's not about making others feel comfortable, it's about you and them, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day. For the outside observer though, yeah, it can definitely feel a bit uncomfortable, especially in such a tough moment, like the one shared by Chris Weidman and his father following his loss to Luke Rockhold. This was the first time his son had ever lost a pro bout, and not only that, but it was for the middleweight title, an ill-fated mistake in throwing a wheel kick ultimately costing him the fight. Certainly the type of moment one would want the support of a loving parent. After the fight, an absolutely battered Weidman gave a post-fight interview with Joe Rogan about the defeat, and immediately afterwards, his father, who was also in his corner that night, grabbed the microphone and said this.
And everybody, thank you! And this is still my boy!
Just hits you right in the uncomfortable. You can see on Chris's face that he appreciates it, but, well, it was just a supportive dad move, what can you say? The moment has since then been memed to all hell and will live in MMA infamy, but it's still just as uncomfortable 5 years later. Number 4. Mark Coleman's crying kids. Let's be real here, MMA is a brutal sport, and the chances of a child understanding the implications of its violence in any capacity are fairly small. For instance, a big cut, which is merely surface level, to them might seem like the end of the world, but they have no understanding at all about the concept of brain damage, which is why you probably shouldn't bring your kids to your fight, and you probably shouldn't bring them into the ring afterwards to give your mangled face a big hug. Mark Coleman's second fight with Fedor in Pride was in Las Vegas, not Japan, and so why not bring his 2 daughters along? Unfortunately, the hammer was the nail for the better part of the 2-round fight and looked a bit worse for wear by the end of it. The children were understandably distraught, and so in an attempt to calm their fears as any good father would, Mark brought them into the ring post-fight. The horror on their faces, at their father's reshaped head, something you'll never forget. Coleman tried to make nice with Fedor and the girls to show them that there was no ill will, and he further tried to comfort them backstage by holding them close in the locker room.
Daddy's fine, okay? Daddy's fine.
No, he is not, and they know it. Number 3. Max Holloway's UFC Tonight interview. Perhaps the scariest moment on our list came International Fight Week 2018. Max Holloway was doing the media rounds for his upcoming title fight with Brian Ortega at UFC 226, and of course one of the stops would be Fox's flagpole program, UFC Tonight. The interview was conducted by Kenny Florian and Michael Bisping, and right out of the gate, there just seemed to be something a bit off about Max Holloway. As the interview progressed, it became more and more apparent that something wasn't right, and Bisping, being the type of guy he is, always willing to call it how he sees it, very politely asked if there was something wrong.
You look like you just got out of bed. Are you tired? What's going on? How's the weight cut? You know, are you drained? I mean, you look a little sleepy.
I'm good, man. I'm good. A little bit tired. They got me doing a bunch of media.
Max's response didn't exactly convince anyone. The segment, which only lasted a few minutes, came and went, but the buzz around the sport was concern over Holloway's condition. That evening, Max was hospitalized with concussion-like symptoms, many fearing that the fighter may have suffered a stroke during his difficult weight cut, something that has happened before. Guy Mesker famously had a minor stroke in the weeks prior to his scheduled bout with Tito Ortiz at UFC 50. Ultimately, it was not disclosed or possibly even discovered exactly what it was that caused those symptoms in Max, but he was pulled from the card and luckily made a full recovery. That said, it's still a horribly uncomfortable video to watch. Number 2. Anderson Silva's broken leg. There are few things more uncomfortable than seeing your heroes brought down to rubble, but what happened to Anderson Silva at UFC 168 is painful on so many levels. The Spider's leg breaking due to a checked kick by Chris Weidman is one of the most horrific sports injuries ever captured on tape, and to see it over and over again in slow motion was like a nightmare, especially when he went to plant his foot again and realized that there was nothing there to support him, his fibula and tibia broken completely in half. You just couldn't help but feel for Silva on a human level at that point, his cries of pain as he lay there on the mat. It's the least invincible he ever looked. And we've all been injured. We all know how awful that must have felt, but it does go beyond that basic human connection as well. This was the biggest fight of Silva's career, arguably. This legend of the sport brought down in his chance at regaining his title, a loss many felt at the time was of his own doing with how carelessly he defended himself. And now this. Even Weidman's brief celebration afterwards felt uncomfortable. You honestly felt bad for everyone all around, and of course Silva more than anyone, and it was certainly one of the feel-bad moments this sport has ever produced. Number 1. Joe B's defeat on Fight Island. This entry is the definition of misery. Joseph Benavidez's quest for gold is entirely relatable even if you're not an MMA fan. We've all strived for something great and come up short. Joe B had 3 previous chances at the UFC flyweight title and all 3 times failed. His third loss was somewhat marred with controversy though, as Davison Figueiredo came in overweight and clashed heads with Joe accidentally prior to the fight finishing sequence. And so the bout would be run back, but this was to be the final real chance anyone saw at Benavidez potentially winning UFC gold in his long and impressive career. The fight was brutal. Nearly 5 full minutes of Benavidez getting the absolute worst Figgy had to throw at him. How Joe survived the fight long enough to end up in the rear naked choke that put him to sleep is beyond me, but it was about as brutal a title loss as there has ever been, and it ended with a choke that definitely should have been stopped sooner. In the silence of the arena as this was on Fight Island, the horrifying sound of Benavidez regaining consciousness after the fight is not something any of us will soon forget.
Joe's okay.
Megan O'Leary, Joe's wife, was in the arena for the bout and there to support her husband afterwards, adding to the overall sad feels. Amazing win for Figueiredo, but wow did this one feel awful in so many ways.
They just made the difficulty too hard.
Whoa! I just shot him out of the cage! I just shot him out of the cage! Someone clip that! I shot him out of the cage with an uppercut! Someone clip that!
John Jones is dead.
I just shot him out of the cage!
That's a Tommy clip. Tommy can...
Yeah! Woo!
Hey, what's up guys? Jason here, just to let you know about our Twitch channel and our streaming schedule. We do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we've also added Sundays to our schedule now. Just check our schedule at twitch.tv/MMA on point for more details, and then also check out our Discord. See you guys on the next stream.
This video was chopped together by our newest editor, the man himself, Play from Uncle Joey MMA. You can follow him on YouTube and Twitter at Uncle Joey MMA. A big thank you to Ben Rosette, who provided that sweet tune you heard in the intro. Check out his music by clicking the link in the description and go give him a follow on his Instagram and Twitter page at Ben Rosette. Thanks for watching. Please give us a like and subscribe. We've got 3 new videos or more for you every single week. Let us know what you thought of the video in the comments below. Follow On Point MMA on Twitter and have yourself a wonderful day.